The Sopranos follows New Jersey mob boss Tony Soprano as he looks to balance his family life with that of his crime family life. Throughout The Sopranos' 6 seasons, Tony encounters many colourful characters. He makes enemies, acquaintances, he escapes death, he causes death, he kills, he alienates, and ultimately at the end of season 6, Tony survives a mob war with a rival family and comes through unscathed. However, it is strongly implied his capo Carlo has flipped to the feds, which will almost certainly send Tony to jail. On top of this, almost all of the old guard from Tony's crew have been wiped out, with the Sopranos taking heavy losses during the New York-New Jersey War. The series' finale is perhaps the most controversial in television history. Some love it, some hate it. Either way, here we are, more than 10 years later, still talking about it. Tony enters Holston's and awaits his family for an evening meal, who all arrive one by one, aside from Meadow, who's still outside trying to park her car. A shady-looking guy in a members-only jacket shuffles around, eventually going to the men's room. Tony eats, makes small talk with Carmela and AJ, and then looks up at the front door, and we cut to black. It wasn't cinematic. Has there ever been an ending to a show more infuriating, more intriguing, more talked about? And talk about it, Sopranos fans do, with discussions always taking place as to what actually happened in the final scene. Was it just an unorthodox time to end the scene? Was it a showcase of Tony's constant paranoia? Or was Tony killed in that moment? If he was murdered, who killed him? The members-only guy? Well, if he did, then who was that? Who was he working for, and why was Tony killed? So many questions, so little answers, but according to the creator of The Sopranos, David Chase, the answers are all there. I have a video coming out soon on the ending of The Sopranos, and without trying to toot my own horn, I think it's pretty good. There's been many different opinions on what happened at the end, and this video coming out is my take. The intention is for it to be the Sopranos ending video to end all Sopranos ending videos, to collectively analyse every possible thing that could have happened in the final scene, and going through a list of every possible suspect of who could have killed Tony, and ultimately coming to a conclusion, once and for all, as to what happened to Tony Soprano. So be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay up to date for that video, which I'm very excited about and I hope you'll enjoy. That video is finished, but since making it, some new clues have come to my attention regarding the ending of The Sopranos, which I wanted to share today. Now, as many Sopranos fans know, one of the most popular theories about the ending of the show is that the guy in the members-only jacket killed Tony, with him being a hitman for someone. And one theory, which I touch on in the video coming out soon, is that the murderer was connected to Eugene. But let's take a step back for a second, because of course not everyone agrees that Tony Soprano was murdered. But there are so many clues that suggest this, such as Bobby Bacala's line about not hearing it when it happens, and the act of not hearing it being visualized during a scene where Silvio is sitting at a table and witnesses a mob execution. There are other secrets regarding the ending of The Sopranos as well. For example, Season 6A showing us just what would happen in the aftermath of Tony's death by playing out a similar situation, except of course Tony is shot by Junior and goes into a coma. AJ becoming even more messed up, the Jersey Capos vying for the top spot, all of these things which will happen in the event of Tony's death already happened in Season 6A, as I detailed in a video of mine called The Hidden Details That Reveal What Happened After the Ending. There are many parallels in the show, and perhaps the show is trying to signify this to us with Meadow's parallel parking attempts in the final scene. Maybe Meadow is us, the viewers, trying to align everything up, so to speak. There's another theory, what with Tony walking into the diner and looking ahead, and in the next shot he's already sitting down, as if this entire scene is some kind of purgatory that Tony has to constantly relive. There are so many clues, so many layers to The Sopranos, and the one I wanted to talk about today is the mission Eugene is sent on in the first episode of Season 6. Eugene wants out of the mob life after coming into a great deal of money. His wife is worried about the future. His son is messed up as he's into drugs. In fact, one could argue in this regard that Eugene shares some similarities with Tony. But in any case, Tony says he'll consider Eugene's retirement, after which Christopher sends Eugene on a hit to take out a victim who owed Christopher money and failed to pay him. As Chris put it, final notice. So Eugene does the deed, walks into a diner with a members only jacket, looking all shady like, and takes out his victim. And on top of this, the victim was overweight and his name was Teddy Spirodakis. His initials are TS, like Tony Soprano. So this scene is pretty much a parallel of what will, if you think that Tony does get shot by the members only guy, of what will happen after the famous cut to black. It's a great bookend, and don't forget, this is the same episode where the show calls attention to Eugene's jacket by Vito calling it out. And even the name of the episode is members only. How many more clues do you need? Surely the show is telling us something with this scene. Of course, not all of the details are the same, such as Tony being with his family and this guy being alone. There's other differences also, but those who would subscribe to this theory would chalk up the differences to the showrunners not wanting to make the parallels too obvious. And there's also the fact that Tony's initials aren't actually TS, as his full first name is Anthony, but again, he's known by practically everyone as Tony. In addition to this being a clue as to what happens to Tony in the final scene, it also suggests who it was for, given this episode and the whole members only stuff deals around Eugene. I talk about this more in the upcoming video, but Tony could have been taken out by one of Eugene's relatives, his wife for instance, as she may have blamed Tony for the suicide of her husband, with Tony of course eventually rejecting Eugene's request to leave the game. And she could have used the money that Eugene inherited to hire a hitman to take out Tony. The hitman even looks a bit like Eugene. Maybe he was a brother or a cousin or something. There are other scenes in season 6 that foreshadow the fact that Tony does indeed die in the end, such as Jerry being shot in a restaurant, and Silvio subsequently saying he didn't realize what was happening until midway through the murder. Then there's Bobby's famous line about not hearing it when it happens, and the murder of Tony's nemesis, Phil Leotardo, who was whacked in front of his family. One could argue that with these three murders, T.S., Jerry and Phil Leotardo, we witness parallels to Tony's death through different perspectives. With Teddy's, we get it from the killer's perspective, in this case Eugene. With Jerry, we get it from the perspective from witnesses and bystanders, in this case Silvio. And with Phil Leotardo's hit, we get it from the family, which was Phil's wife, and in the final scene would obviously be Tony's wife and son. And in the final scene, we get it from the victim himself. I bet you don't even hear it when it happens. So what do you think of Eugene murdering Teddy Spirodakis? Is this simply a coincidence, or is it a clear clue as to what fate awaits Tony? Let me know in the comments below, and stay tuned and subscribe for my upcoming video on the Sopranos ending. Thanks for watching.